Hello.
Caller disconnected.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
There we go. I can hear you now.
I need to plug my microphone.
I swear to God, I'm living in the city zoo. I go down, I'm coming back from the grocery store with drinks for tonight, parking my scooter, and I get a bit frustrated because the chain to my scooter wasn't cooperating and the lock wasn't sealing very easily. So I let out a couple curses, and out of the dark, it's evening here now, out of the dark comes this big guy, dark fellow, comes out of the dark, and he's waving his arms around, telling me that I'm violating his privacy, and that he's moving my bike on me. And I'm just like, You're not moving my my bicycle. I have a bicycle and a scooter parked next to one another in the parking lot. And he's saying, I'm moving your bicycle. And I'm like, no, you're not without me phoning the cops. I mean, you just come down here out of the dark, literally, and you're waving your arms around at me, claiming I'm violating your privacy, and telling me you're going to move the bike rack. And so he gets all upset, and then he tells me that he's going to take it up with management. And I said, you go right ahead and do that, and we'll straighten it out with them. Then he comes back at me again, and is again asserting I'm violating his privacy, and that that the bike has to be moved. And I'm like, how is it violating your privacy? And he's like, well, it just is, and I don't have to explain myself to you. I'm like, no, I guess not, but you'll have to explain it to someone at some point. It may as well be me. Nope, I don't have to tell you nothing. Okay. So he's not being very reasonable. I think he was actually trying to complain about my scooter and my headlight shine, because then he starts on about the headlight, and I'm going, well, how is moving the bicycle going to change the fact that there's a scooter headlight coming through your window? That doesn't make any sense. And even if I was making a bit of noise, it's only like 7:30 when this is happening at night. So how is making noise at 7:30 at night supposed to be an offense? It's not in this country. You can make as much noise as you like, according to the bylaws, the noise bylaw. I mean, there's heavy construction equipment and whatnot, and I wasn't really all that long there anyway, but that aside, and he's just like tears into me with this, and I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'm going to have to write a letter to management about this. I'm feeling a little bit threatened by this guy waving his arms around to my face. He didn't seem friendly. Then he starts lying to me about, like, well, I did ask you. And it's like, no, you didn't ask me anything. You came down here and told me this is what you're doing. And this is not the first such altercation. The woman who lives right below me in the apartment complex also complains. She complains about me making noise till all hours of the night, 90% of which, even if I do make a noise, it lasts all of 5 seconds. And although technically, yes, it's a violation of the bylaws to make noise in the night at all, above a certain level. I dispute whether or not there's any evidence that I violated the bylaw. The noises I'm making can't be that loud. And number two, so now I've got two tenants that are complaining about the noise level or something, my violating their privacy in some fashion. I'm just going, this building is full of loons. Like, ordinarily I'd start to wonder, if it wasn't me, if it was someone else. Admittedly, I would probably start to wonder if it wasn't that person. And I guess I'm starting to question that policy. They got someone else thrown out of the building, I think it was last year or the year before. There was this guy named Martin. He was running around the building vandalizing things. I mean, it's just one thing after another with this building. And I swear to God, what are these people, what the hell is the matter with them? If it's not Martin...
Good question.
What's that?
Good question. What's the problem?
I don't get it. Why are these people all behaving like freaking, nut bars? And I think what happened, my best guess is that Marvin, as soon as they got Martin thrown out, the old woman who led the charge and got, a petition signed with the names of most of the tenants in the building, got him thrown out based on the petition. There was a tribunal hearing, and the tribunal ruled against Marvin, and he was asked to leave. Now, normally that would be the end of it, except you have the right to appeal before your eviction is carried out. So he took them to court, and then before it got to court, he had left the building on his own. He just voluntarily left. But I think the old woman felt a little bit empowered, and now anything that goes wrong that she disagrees with in the building, she gets all the people in the building to sort of band together and cause problems between some of the tenants. And I don't really like that very much, especially now that I seem to be public enemy number one. But I really don't see that, I'm feeling a bit hounded. I don't really see that I've done anything wrong, and I don't know, what measures I can take. And when Glynis had started complaining about the noise level, I took it up with a lawyer. And the lawyer said, well, there's not much you can do, really, until someone tries to get you thrown out. You can't stop them from complaining, right? So that's what I'm left to do, is just wait and see. But I mean, it's a distraction because, I don't need this in my life, wondering whether or not, my neighbors are going to have me thrown out because of some, perceived slight. And this guy from downstairs, I don't know what his issue was. I honestly don't think he even remembered the fact that he forgot to ask me to move my bike. To which I would have responded, had he done so, I would have said, well, look, there's not much room down here. There's not many other places. You know what his solution was? Move the bike in front of the neighbor's window. Well, that's not where the bike rack is, and I don't think the neighbors who live next to you are gonna approve of that just instantaneously. We should probably discuss it with management. And then he said, well, let's just move it over here. And he's gesturing in front of the garbage. And I'm like, no, it's not going to work. You can't just move the bike rack in front of the garbage. I'm not on side with that. Because then the garbage then cannot be unloaded from the building. So I didn't see where the hell this guy was coming from at all. He didn't really have a solution, and he didn't seem to care as long as it wasn't next to his window. And he's on the ground floor, his apartment is sort of half in the ground, if you know what I mean. It's built into the ground. So anyway, It's pretty crazy, and I don't know what I'm going to do about it. I don't think there's anything I can do. I just have to live with it until someone does something, and then I can have them told, look, you can't just bitch people out every time you have an issue with them. You can't just take them to court and have them thrown out of their apartment. It's not how this works. But I still have to plan for the possibility that I've got an unplanned move that I'm going to have to make at some future date, which is as yet unknown, because of these people that will just not frickin' smarten up. You can't just dictate to people like what is supposed to happen in their lives, and this city is just terrible for that. People just they think they're entitled. They think it's their right to sort of not have their rights impugned in any way, shape, or form that they don't approve of. And yet we're all put on this planet together. You all have to get along with one another. Apart from the fact it's very unpatriotic, it's not very Canadian. My experience in Canada is that most of the people here are quite, reasonable, by and large. But this building, I mean, Jesus.
That's not Canada.
No, it's not Canada. I mean, it's like
another country.
It's some other country, or I don't know, like some place where people just don't get along very easily. I could see it if it was like, maybe, I don't know, one of the hot spots in the world, like Syria or something. Some place where there's like a lot of strife and a lot of tension, but not here and not in my building. And I don't understand why he didn't just ask me to move my bike so I could explain all this to him calmly and civilly. Instead, he comes with his hands waving, assuming I'm going to be, fair bet someone's going to be, they're going to be fairly resistant to you if you come at them right away and start accusing them of things and dictating how things are going to change without their consultation. That's a really good way to piss people off. And I admit I felt threatened, and I did sort of have to raise my voice at one point and explain to him, look, stop waving your arms in my face. You don't have the right to do that.
Yeah.
So, actually I had to bat his arm out of my face at one point because it was just too close. And I was like, get that arm away from me. I don't want it anywhere near my face. You're going to poke my eye out with that or something. So, I don't know. Anyway, he's probably going to complain to management about my outrageous behavior, and my management will get it into their head that I'm the problem because there's more than one person who's raised a complaint. Oh yeah, and that's the other thing. As we're talking about it, finally, calmly and civilly in the hallway while I'm getting my mail, another old guy passes by and claims he can hear me making noises all the time. And I'm like, well, that's not really possible because I'm not here all the time. Well, maybe it's not you then, he said before he walked out the door. I'm like, it's probably not. Not if it's all the time. I'm certainly not even here, so I can't make noise if I'm not here.
Have a problem with you.
But what? What did I do? I mean, I don't even know, like, there's nothing. I didn't do anything.
You don't need to do anything for them to hate you. Some people are like this.
I guess so. Anyway, shakes my confidence in human nature. But it's like a zoo here. I mean, I've actually had to start thinking about just on my own leaving the building because I don't really want to be next.
For the good.
Well, I just don't want to be living next to these people anymore. Like they're all crazy in my opinion. And but the people who live on my floor, there's nothing wrong with them. One of them's a fellow software developer. The two others. There's a family that lives next door. I asked them, do I make noise? They said no. I asked the old lady who lives across the hallway from me. She says, "No, you never. I haven't heard a peep coming out of your apartment. I mean, nothing beyond the ordinary." So I assume, based on that, they don't have any complaints. I mean, the woman who lives across from me, I know really pretty well, I think, and I doubt she's making complaints against me. So, and I really, really doubt the family that lives next door to me is making complaints. And the guy who lives further down the hall, he wouldn't have cause to if the other two didn't. So I don't know who else would be complaining about noise. But this guy didn't say noise. He said, "I'm violating his privacy." Well, how am I violating your privacy? I just assumed it was noise, but that may not be correct. He wasn't very clear. He said it's invading his privacy. I'm like, well, I don't see how I'm invading your privacy. Well, you're shining that light in my apartment. I don't like that. Okay, well, then how is moving a bike going to solve that problem? I don't have to explain myself to you. He gets all, like, terse again, and I'm like, well, you have to explain it to someone, because people aren't just going to, like, go along with whatever you say. You can't just complain and then automatically gain everyone's consent and agreement. You have to explain what your complaint is and why you think it's reasonable that the other person should move, normally. So, anyway.
Oh, God. It's fucked up.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I look around in the neighborhood, but I think it's stupid that I'm being run out of this, I mean, literally hounded out of this building. I haven't done anything. I'm a simple software developer. I go to work daily, you know, and I go to bed early at night. I started going to bed, you know, around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. So...
Oh, God, that's early.
Well, when you get older, sometimes you get some people, they start feeling more tired. I was a bit surprised. Of course, I've had to fight off a disease. I had hepatitis at one point until it was I had it cured in 2016. So everything was fine again after that, but it was stressful because my liver had started to fail, and then all of a sudden this cure came out, and then everything was fine again after. So, I mean, I shouldn't be alive anymore technically, but I am, so... Maybe I should start smoking pot. It's legal now here.
Yeah. I saw the internet.
Of course, you know what? A bunch of people in this province have started to complain when people are smoking pot in their apartment now. So now, you're not, like, pot may be legal, but if you live in an apartment building, you're not allowed to smoke pot, really, because in Ontario, this province that I live in. Because everyone who doesn't smoke pot has been complaining that they don't want to smell it. I mean, it does smell disgusting, I'll give it that, but now, because it's a new right that people have, you can smoke pot if you want. People are, of course, what are they doing? They're trying it out for the first time in many cases, and making a decision. In the end, I don't think we're going to see a gigantic spike. They did this in Amsterdam, right? In Amsterdam, it's technically all the drugs that are illegal in the United States are also illegal in Amsterdam. But in Amsterdam, they don't enforce the law to the same degree they do elsewhere in Holland. So if you're caught with ecstasy or with pot or cocaine in Amsterdam, I'm told that you don't really face prosecution. unless you have very large amounts of it on you. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard. And but when they had this new approach, when this started to happen in Amsterdam, there was a spike in usage of drugs, pot, cocaine especially, and then what ended up happening was people got bored of it very quickly, and they went back to, and then the usage patterns went back to what they were before the policy was introduced. So basically no more people ended up smoking it or doing drugs and had been doing it before anyway, and usage went back to normal. So there was a spike in use, and then it ended. And I think we're going to see the same thing happen here. It'll spike initially, and then it will go back down to what it was originally, and that'll be the end of that, right? So at that point, you can smoke pot if you want, but there won't be that many more people smoking pot. But when they first made it for sale across Canada, some provinces ran out of supply of pot, and you're not allowed to be shipping pot across provincial boundaries. That's one of the restrictions. So you can't live in New Brunswick and then ship pot to Ontario. If you're in New Brunswick, you have to smoke the pot that's available in New Brunswick, and then buy it from a vendor there. But you can't buy from a vendor in Ontario. And they ran out in Ontario, they ran out in Quebec, and they ran out in BC.
Oh God.
So most of the provinces ran out of supply before it was over with. But I mean, like I said, this pattern will continue probably for another month or so, and then it'll just go back to the way it was before.
I think he's going to drop because there is no more to smoke.
What's that? Well, yeah, or just, yes, people will just stop using it because there's no more pot. But the danger is that the black market will pick up the slack. So they actually, now that it's legal, the provinces that have opted for provincial sales only, because the province can decide if they want to sell pot as a provincial state, like as a state-run company, or they can put it out to the private sector. And some provinces, like Ontario, went with the private sector. So you get a bunch of little companies in Ontario that are all selling pot, but they all ran out of pot anyway. It didn't make any difference. And in Quebec, it's the other way around. It's only the Quebec Drug Commission is allowed to sell pot, right? So anyway, whichever it is, they all ran out of supply, and some provinces like Manitoba, where I'm from originally, they did not run out. There's plenty of supply there. But if you live in a province where you ran out, your choices are what they were originally. You can go back to your black market dealer, and you can get drugs that way, right? So if you're trying to kill the black market, which is one of the objectives of the policy, then you have to make sure it's available. You can't not have it. So they're going to have to restock it fairly quickly, and of course there's a growing season for this stuff. Canada, you can grow pot in Canada. It's done here in greenhouses because of the climate, for the most part. Or you can grow it in BC or Southern Ontario. It grows naturally. Otherwise, you have to grow it in a greenhouse. Oh, and in Nova Scotia. Do you know where pot was first discovered? I didn't know this until last week, but turns out pot was discovered by European explorers. Guess where? In Nova Scotia. It was discovered in
Yeah.
it was discovered in Nova Scotia, and then as soon as the Europeans got their hands on it, they started passing it around, and it was legal for nearly 300 years until the 1800s, and then it became classified in the late 1800s when Canada made it illegal. And then it happened again with the liquor prohibition in the United States. They made a bunch of drugs as well as alcohol illegal at the same time. And that was part of the women's emancipation movement of the 1920s. And then it ended up being, oh, it's about health and whatever and all this other bullshit. In Canada, the reality is that, according to a Senate report in Canada, the drugs, cocaine and cannabis, were made illegal and scheduled substances around in the late 1800s, early 1900s, when tobacco farmers and alcohol distillers lobbied the government of the day because they didn't want coca leaf products coming north from South America, which they had started to do. If you remember, Coca-Cola, the soft drink, was originally a cocaine derivative product. And
yeah, I know that.
And it had cocaine in it. So this was before the days of caffeine, right? So what they ended up doing is putting cocaine in their product, and the alcohol distillers and the tobacco farmers thought, okay, well this is going to mean that we're going to see encroachment. So they lobbied the government to make it all illegal, so that no substance other than alcohol or cigarettes were legal in Canada. But the women got alcohol thrown in too. And then alcohol, of course, was in the 1920s. Alcohol was made legal again because they found out that organized crime was getting too strong a foothold in the alcohol trade. So they reversed their decision on alcohol, but they kept all the other substances as being illegal. And this is why you have, in Canada anyway, can't speak for the rest of the planet, but in Canada, this is why these substances are banned. It had nothing to do with health and public safety. It had everything to do with money and power. Money and power. Nothing to do with public health. It was all about money and power.
They didn't care about
No, shit, no.
That.
They didn't give a damn about the people. They were interested in their wallets and in their market share. They didn't give a damn about the average person. That had nothing to do with it.
Oh, God.
All these people come out of the woodwork now. Oh, it's bad for you, blah, blah, blah. Well, it is bad for you, of course, but that's beside the point. That really is not why it was made illegal in the first place. But you can't say that now. Like, it's impossible to argue, oh, we should have full legalization of substances because, oh, they're bad for you. Heroin overdoses will skyrocket if we made heroin illegal. Well, you're going to get some heroin cases, but you also get, with those cases, you also get heroin treatment, and you get it paid for. Right now, everyone gets locked up, and it costs the public purse uncounted millions of dollars every year, billions probably by now, every year, to pay both for the law enforcement and to pay for the medical bills of all the people who become addicts. Wouldn't it be better if you just had the addicts pay for their own Medicare by taxing it and making it a state-run business? Well, you have a hell of a time selling that idea here in Canada at the moment. I mean, it's worked with cannabis, true enough, but cocaine and the other stuff, people are still fairly resistant to the idea of legalizing everything. But, I mean, that's my advocacy, so I'll be starting to tell people now. It's like, well, okay, now we've got pot legalized. Pot's not good for you. Pot's not good for you at all. It's a smoke. You're inhaling smoke again. You're going to see cancer rates go up, and there is a syndrome, a psychological syndrome, but a syndrome nonetheless, called cannabis addiction syndrome. Whether or not it's a real addiction, for most people it isn't, but it does exist for some limited number in the population. So
I know a few people who smoke, but they are not addicts.
But what defines an addict? I mean, as a people, we need to have, our civilization needs to have this conversation. Like, what is an addict? And if there's a chemical dependency, even if there are addicts, and I think there are, then you should probably have them pay for it. Why not? They're going to do the drug regardless of what the law says, so it may as well come out of their pockets as well. If they're gonna spend money on drugs, let them pay for their own goddamn medicine. We can cure, I mean, never mind the fact that you can cure heroin addiction now with a new drug called Suboxone very, very quickly, with under a week in most cases. It used to take you months of methadone treatment and rehab and whatnot. Not anymore. Suboxone fixes that problem fairly quickly. I know. I've had friends go through it. So, yeah, look it up. Suboxone. All these drugs, they're not good for you, but people do them, and people want their vices. I say let them have their vices.
Yeah, but not only the illegal ones like drugs, even alcohol and.
Yeah, but don't forget when we went through this, especially in the United States. When they went through this in the United States, what ended up happening, you remember the stories about Chicago in the 1920s and the alcohol distillers who were operating above the law outside of Prohibition? People like Al Capone. All those guys, guess where they got their money from?
Yeah.
Selling alcohol. And would they be in the history books today if alcohol were legal? Probably not. So, if you don't want Pablo Escobar selling your populace Coke, the best thing you can do is make Coke legal and then start selling it yourself, and you'll probably sell it for less than Pablo does, and you're going to find out also that Pablo is run out of business or marginalized into forms of contraband that other than drugs where he can make a profit. Where hopefully he's caught a little bit more easily. So I think, like I said, the only real gain here is achieved. For 70 years, we've tried keeping drugs illegal, and for 70 years, it's utterly failed. Failed and failed miserably. Any public policy that had failed for this much, for this long, would not be public policy anymore, but because of cultural inhibitions about drug use, most of which are religiously derived, I might add. It's Christianity you can thank for, and the Eastern religion, well, Christianity and Islam for the most part, that you can blame, because the Middle Eastern religions always their version of God, which happens to be mine as well, but God, however writ by the three dominant religions of the world, doesn't like drugs. But I think they missed the point even on the theological grounds. God didn't like drugs because he wanted them made illegal. God didn't want drugs because he was suggesting to you it's not a good idea. At a time when the average person's education was less than that of a grade 3 education here in Canada, which is very, very, very limited, suffice to say. So they weren't very well informed, a largely ignorant society. You had to get the word out somehow that you shouldn't overindulge in drug use. So we'll use religion, right? But nowadays we have science to fill that gap. And you can tell people what not to use and tell them why, but beyond that, I don't think there's much you can do. You can't just make people stop doing drugs. It hasn't worked for 7 decades that we've tried making it that way. Why will it work in the decades to come? It won't. It'll still fail 140, 300 years from now. We'll still be locking people up. And by the way, these people are often, most cases, they get caught red-handed carrying drugs, and they could still be productive members of society, but society has labeled them. Once you're a criminal in any of these countries, Canada, the United States, or any European country, well, less so in Europe, but more so in Canada, your career options are severely limited.
In Europe as well.
Really?
That depends.
I think it depends which country you're in, because some...
and it depends what you do, and not exactly only drugs. And
yeah, I mean, until recently, you could cross the United States border with a conviction for domestic assault. But if you were caught carrying, a gram of coke, that was enough to keep you out of the United States. Now what they've done is they've added domestic violence to the list of crimes that will keep you out of the U.S. But the point remains that, I mean, or even 10 milligrams of weed would keep you out of the United States. And that made no sense. It still doesn't make any sense. And guess what the Americans are doing in response to Canada's move to legalize cannabis? They're checking everyone at the border, and they're keeping out the people that claim that they have used pot before. So what's that resulting in? Everybody lying and saying, no, I've never smoked pot ever before in my entire life. Well, that's an effective policy. So it's pretty silly stuff. Anyway. Wonder what the squaddle's doing. He's sitting there at Maropa.
Oh, did you see the live stream?
Well, I saw the Galnet, yeah. You're talking about Galnet, right?
No, the live stream for the next update.
You mean on YouTube?
Chapter 4. The changes, yes.
Yeah, I've seen that. They were concentrating mostly on the mining aspect. There's also exploration changes that are coming. Those are the announced changes so far. I think atmospheres might be in as well. I don't know if there's going to be atmospheres in gas giants or atmospheres on terrestrial planets or both. But according to Obsidian Ant, there will be more changes in the coming update than there has been in the prior 3 Beyond updates combined. So we're looking at a platform redesign. Something pretty major is going to happen next month when they release the final code. And we'll get some early views of that in YouTube when people start taking video of the new environment. But and that'll happen as early as 2 weeks from now. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. One of the things that's going to change is how planets get scanned. You'll be able to launch probes from your ship. In fact, you'll be required to launch probes from your ships to discover anything meaningful about planets from now on.
That's nice. That part is nice because, I don't like that part when you need to find out you have the coordinates, you need to find the coordinates. It's pretty fucked up. And when you find something, you cannot tag it.
Yeah, well, you should be able to. Your sensors in the 34th century should be capable of finding out if where the gold is on the planet's surface or where the elements are. so that when you land your ship, you're in a general area. You're within, you know, a region that is actually got the required minerals. Instead of just completely random, you have no idea where the gold, the polonium, or the tungsten are, you know, or technetium, or whatever it is you're looking for. It's complete mystery.
I found also a distress beacon. I went to the location. I managed to find it, but then I realized, oh, I don't have a SRV.
Yeah.
And I was like, you cannot bookmark that location on the planet. I was like, fuck it.
Yeah. Well,
if I cannot bookmark it to come back to the same place, I'm not.
No. Well, I mean, anything could happen as well. I mean, but every single time is my issue. I mean, someone else could come along and they could rescue the pod, or, you know, any one of a number of different scenarios.
No, we're only materials there.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, then the materials should still be there. But if you're trying to rescue someone and you're finding them not there, well, of course, someone else could rescue them. And nothing would stop that from happening. But right now, I mean, as it stands, there are some people complaining about the exploration changes because they don't like the idea of just finding gravity wells only, where planets are supposed to be. Of course, you can still see the planet in your screen out your window. But your sensors won't be providing you with very much information about the planet beyond its orbit and so on until you send a probe. And then you have to send the probe, and you'll get very detailed information about the planet and, you know, what makes up the atmosphere, if there is support for atmospheres, and where the elements are, and so on and so forth. Your ship should also, I think, have some sensor capability, and I think they've already said that will happen too. So, but I mean, getting detailed information is not going to be just, oh, and we just hit a button and poof, you know, suddenly all the available information is downloaded to your computer. It's not going to be quite that simple. There'll be more involved in getting that same level of data. Some people don't like that. I think that's more realistic. I mean,
yeah, I like it more this way.
Yeah, I like it to be. I mean, I'm not necessarily in favor of it being, you know, obnoxiously difficult, but it should be more. You know, the more realism we get, the better. And again, in the 34th century, you should still be able to get a certain amount of information due to technological advance. Beyond that, you should have to launch probes and use remote sensing. And of course, what else do you get? Oh yeah, you can also scan asteroids, and you can blow up asteroids. And the asteroid actually might blow up while it's right next to you, because the asteroids can contain volatile materials, and if that happens, then you'll get an asteroid blowing up next to you. So
they say that in that reveal trailer that it was the first one that came out. They said that footage of the asteroid exploding was in-game. It's going to be like that.
Yeah, I believe that.
That's going to be amazing.
It should be, yeah, it should be a little bit better. But again, the biggest changes of all, I think, have yet to be announced. I think that's why I'm still holding out hope for atmospheres. It's hard to top atmospheres. They also canceled 2 other major feature upgrades, including the fleet carrier and well, they're keeping squadrons in. The fleet carrier is out, and there was one other thing they threw out. I can't remember what it was, but it was some big feature they had originally planned, and then they reshuffled the staff and moved them into developing other games. No. Space Legs it'll be 2020 before we see anything remotely like Space Legs. The first thing that has to happen is we need the environment completed, and right now the environment's not complete. So space legs will come when the rest of the environment is done, and we're not there yet. You're going to need to have some clouds in the sky if you're going to have space legs. Just doesn't make sense to do it any other way.
But I don't know what's happening. So I'm in a group on Discord.
Oh.
Last week there were 3 systems attacked by Targoids.
Yes. Only one had...
Now this week another 3. One of them, it's full of Hydras. Nobody's protecting it. Another one, it's anti-xenon initiative protecting it. And the other one, where I'm going now.
The other thing is to keep in mind, Obsidian Ant, or no, someone else reported that those barnacles, there was an article going back to January 2017 on YouTube, and they talk about how there was a message received from a ship that had discovered that the barnacles were being used to assemble base ships, Stargoid capital ships. So I was apparently right about my assessment of the barnacles being components for a Thargoid capital ship larger than the Farragut class. And at that stage, if the Farragut is going to start, if the barnacles start creating Thargoid base ships, we're looking at some serious problems because they're going to start attacking. They're going to start attacking systems with a lot more zeal. The other thing is, if they introduce atmospheres, there's the possibility that Thargoids will start bombing surface installations. Right now, they don't do that. And if they introduce atmospheres, they could theoretically start bombing cities on planetary surfaces, especially on Earth-type worlds. So we could start seeing colonial bombardments or bombardments of human-breathable planets or Federation and Imperial capital worlds.
Oh God.
Right?
I hope you're wrong.
Because that will lead to some excitement, but it will also be it will suck because there's almost no way to get rid of. The best you can hope for with these Thargoid base ships is that you can make them leave combat the same way you can make a Farragut or an Imperial battleship leave combat. You have to take out all of their component systems. In this case, it would be like the heart or the different organs on the surface of the base ship, like the heart and the the other parts. What else is there other than the heart organ that we've seen in the interceptors?
I know only about the heart.
Well, they should be introducing other organs. They'll just probably say alien organ, and they have to destroy all the organs on the pedals or something, and then take out the heart. And with the heart and the organs gone, the Thargoid base ship will leave combat by jumping into hyperspace. So that's the best outcome you could hope for. In the meantime, of course, it would be launching and or repairing interceptor-class warships. And that's a big problem because these ships are already difficult enough, and the Thargoid base ship would be able to do considerable amounts of damage to a fleet of human ships. So, anyway, something to think about, look forward to. So would you like a Thargoid base ship?
Hmm?
So would you like a Thargoid base ship?
Nope.
No? No base ships for you.
No, not for me.
Alright then.
I try to avoid as much as possible Thargoids.
Except right now you're hunting them.
Except right now, yeah, it's... I don't like Thargoids, but now I'm going to hunt some. I try to avoid them, but now I'm going scout hunting.
Yeah. Well, I fight the scouts. I cannot fight. My ship is not properly configured to deal with Cyclops or Basilisk interceptors. So right now I'll take on the pods because destroying the pods also stops them from entering a system. But taking out the interceptors, I need a wing. I need some help.
But they say that interceptor or scout, they're one. They're considered like one.
Yeah. But when you get above 4, you start getting into the interceptors. So threat 4, you should be seeing a Cyclops. Threat 5 is a Basilisk. Threat 6 is a Medusa. Threat 7... Oh yeah, this capital ship that was reported, it's apparently threat 8. And there is talk about a threat level 9 vessel.
I saw a few signals with threat 8 and 9, and when I searched on the internet, it was saying that it was Hydra.
Okay, so they've introduced threat 9 Hydras. So then we're looking at threat 10 capital ships or higher. Threat 10, 11, or 12 capital ships, base ships.
Maybe. But how do you fight those?
With lots of fighters. And it wouldn't hurt for the Federation and the Empire to actually start using their navies to help out with this war that we've been fighting with the Thargoids. Up until now, they haven't been doing much of anything except guarding planets. And they only guard the key planets. They don't really move. They don't move around very much, according to Wikia. The Wikia page tracks where these ships are deployed. And right now, the Federation seems to have deployed its fleet sporadically throughout the Federation, but nearest Federation key Federation systems like Beta Hydra, Sol, Alpha Centauri. Where else was there? One of the Lalon systems, I think, and Ross 154. Maybe, or Ross 128. But they always keep ships, well, there's 2 in Sol. There's 1 at Earth, 1 at Mars. There are, and of course, if either Earth or Mars are attacked, the one Farragut will simply come from the other planet and jump into hyperspace and then jump out of hyperspace right away to help deal with the Thargoid threat. And Beta Hydra is the Federation shipyards, so that one's defended very heavily. And oh yeah, Delta Pavonis was another one. So that gives you an idea where all these ships are, but they're not moving very much. And of course the Imperial fleet is around Akinar. What the hell? There's hang on here.
I did read the news today. I saw something about Mars, but I don't remember.
I didn't see anything about Mars today, except in the real news.
It was Mars tribute linked to spy robots. About those spy robots.
Yeah, well, the spy robots are all over the place. And oh, Cubeo. That's where the Empire has its shipyards in the Cubeo system. So there's lots. Anyway. I'm just looking around the Federation right now. So Achenar, Cubeo. There's a whole bunch of... Oh yeah, and the Alliance has placed its resources near Dezo. Aurora. Oh yeah, Sirius is another one. 61 Cygni. Mu Cassiopeia. Oh, no, that's a mega ship. Ross 128. LHS 1918. Yeah, Beta Hydri, Delta Pavonis, Epsilon Indy, Lacaille 8760, Leyton 34714, and of course, let's not forget Zachary Hudson's personal capital, which has its world at...
Earth.
Hang on. No, that's not correct. Nano Man. Vega. So anyway, that's where the Federation has put its resources. There's the Sirius Corporation, where I am an employee. And the capital is Mitsili. smart thing for the Federation to do is to move one of its battleships down there. I don't know if they can, though. Okay, we're going to actually move some of our... We have a cargo rack, a fuel scoop, transfer the repair limpet controller, 5A.
Oh, and there was, it would be nice, with the limpets, you have only one module.
Oh shit, you know what? I don't even have, hang on here. Detailed surface scanner, 3D limpet controller, and the business passenger cabin transfer. Oh shit. I don't even have... Oh my god. I have to like rearm my ship. And then I have to go and find a collection limpet controller, class 5. And I need hard points. We'll take the F-Class AX multi-cannons. So we have some of those around. Yeah. And we're going to take this F-Class shock cannon. Sorry, it's an E-Class shock cannon, and we're moving the F-Class multi-cannon in its place. Transfer. Oh, for God's sake. I don't know if we're allowed to have... That blows. That really blows. I'm not allowed to have another multi-cannon.
Why?
I don't know, but it's only letting me have one AX multi-cannon.
You only can have 4 anti-xenon weapons.
Well, I have the Guardian plasma charger, 2 3C shock cannons, 2 Guardian shard cannons, a class 4 pulse laser.
Also the Guardians and the IX missile and multi-cannons.
Okay, but I already have 3 Guardian class.
Yeah, and then you can have only one more. Guardian class or X. But you can use the other ones.
The shock cannons, yeah.
Remote. Remote release flank cannons.
So the plasma is the plasma charger stronger than the class 3 AX AX fragmentation cannon or multi cannon?
I have one of each, but class 1, and then I have the gas cannons. That's what I use. I like them better. I used the railguns. I got used with the railguns, and I like them better.
Well, they don't aim, but okay.
None of them. All of them are fixed except turret multi-cannons.
Yeah, and the shock cannons, class 2 are turreted as well.
They are only turreted in
No, that's in class 3. In class 3, if they're turreted, you have to have a weapons officer.
The Guardian ones?
No, the shock cannons. The human shock cannon.
Oh, I don't know that. Those I don't know. I don't have them.
Oh, they frickin' blast the hell out of things. They're like very nice weapons. They're the best human weapon you can possibly get. But I don't know how effective they are against Thargoids. That's my problem.
I know multi-guns and multi-cannons are good against Thargoids.
Yeah, and if I could move... If I had a class 2... But I don't have access to experimental class weapons right now. Oh, these stupid restrictions are so fucking annoying. But whatever, they work against pods and I'm in an Anaconda and I have shard cannons in class 1, so I can rip apart things with the shard cannon. Shard cannons do work against Thargoids, I know that. And there's no anti-Thargoid class 4 weaponry yet that I know of.
Neither do I.
So, there's that as well.
Multi-cannon.
One second.
Not that good, but...
1 second, I have to try. I'm going to get a module. What the hell module can I have? Oh yeah, class 5. I need the whatchamacallit, the collection limpet. Limpet. Class 5. A limpet. And I need, what system, I don't even know what star system I'm in. I'm in the, it doesn't say, HIP 167, Hipparcos 16753. Hipparchos 16753. 3. One, 6, 7, 3. Okay, find station. And now we have, holy shit, the nearest class 5 collector limpet is 206 light years away in HIP 19147. That's 4 jumps. 19147. Hang on here. Uh, 19147. Okay, so we have that. And now I just don't know if I have the fuel pump. Where is the class 5 3D limpet? I need the repair limpet class 5 swap. Ay, 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 ay. Repair limpet. I need, okay. And we need this contamination limpet, which is also a class 6 weapon. Planetary vehicle. Where's the class 6? Okay. We're ready. Let's go over here now. Fire group. Pulse lasers. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Crew lounge, please. Show me the crew lounge. Why do they have such ugly people in the crew lounge? Their thumbnails are horrible looking.
I know. I have the same problem.
It's just like, okay, you look like a troll or some character out of a Disney movie. And the women look like men. It's like, I'm sorry, you look like a man. Why?
Good question.
Except for your chest, you look like a male. Okay, and we're ready. We're leaving Goya Landing at the bottom of the Pleiades, which means it's going to be, well, we're going to have some Thargoids. Well, I guess I can't really use the fighter against the Thargoids except as a distraction.
They're still good.
Oh, are they?
The Taipan. I heard they're still doing good.
They still hurt them?
A bit. Scratch them.
Yeah, well, that's all they're good for against the human ships as well, so...
Against the scouts, they're good. The human ones.
Yeah.
But against the bigger ones, I don't know. I heard people saying they're still good, but never tried.
Frameshift drive charging.
Okay, and we're now leaving for Pleiades Sector Uniform Juliet, Quebec, Bravo 5-0. Entering jump space. Jumping.
Oh god. But
Yeah.
I heard the crew must be higher that dangerous. If it's lower, it's useless.
Oh, okay.
Fuel suit disengaged.
Okay, I'm in an empty system. I just found a Thargoid. Class 5. Oh, there we are. Here's another one.
Cyclops.
It is non-human. It is... Oh, threat level 7. That's just beautiful. Let's fight the Hydra here.
I think it's a Medusa.
Well, we're not fighting it at any rate. Let's get the hell away from that thing. La 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 la. Oh, here's another one.
I
Non-human.
managed to take down 19 scouts.
Threat level 6. I'm not fighting the threat level 6. Booby Stacks is logged in again. It's actually Bobby Stacks, but he has a dumb looking name, so I call him Booby Stacks. Non-human, threat 6.
Frameshift drive charging.
The hell with these people. I'm going to leave. Charging FSD and in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, jump. La 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 la. Oh my god, it's the Ares Dark region. Oh, there are planets everywhere. Threat level 5, non-human source. Let's see here. We have here a planet. Passing orbit number 1. Orbit number 2. Oh, it's a wee little planet. Planet 3. Non-human source, threat level 6. And now we're getting the hell out of here. This is a threat level 4. Let's see if we get scouts or if we get a interceptor.
Level 4.
We get...
Level 4, they're scouts.
Yeah, that's what we're getting.
Shield breach attack. Alert. Taking damage.
I'm sustaining damage, Commander. Gonna try some evasive action. Roger that, Commander. Attack now. I read you. Cover me.
Fighter destroyed. We.
Assembly initiated. Program delivery drone. Taking damage. Taking damage. Taking damage. Taking damage. Taking damage. Taking damage.
Well, we're in deep space and in deep shit because
Taking damage.
we've got corrosion damage.
Taking damage.
Overheat your ship.
Yeah, well, we're at 78%.
Taking damage.
And as soon as we jump,
You can overheat your ship too.
Taking damage.
If you have
what's that?
a way to do that. Overheating your ship gets rid of the
Taking damage.
corrosive damage.
Shift drive charging.
Well, we're moving to a sun right now, so a sun might burn off the corrosion. But we'd only have one heat sink left.
4, 3, 2, 1. Engage. Taking damage. Fuel scooping. Warning. Temperature critical. Heat sink deployed. Fuel scooping complete. Warning. Temperature critical. Warning. Taking heat damage. Warning. Hull bridge attack. Taking internal damage.
Well, that didn't do anything.
Huh?
Flying close to the star didn't do anything, it just damaged my ship.
I did using the weapons, but I don't think it's a difference.
Hey?
I did it using my weapons. I overheated with my weapons.
Well, I ran up my temperature up to 150%. I was taking module damage all over the place, and it did nothing.
Taking damage. Fuel scooping. Warning. Temperature critical. Fuel scooping complete.
Got 2 jumps left and 69% hull. So I should be okay.
You need the contamination, but...
Yeah, I don't have room for that. I've got lots of other equipment on my ship, and there's too much other equipment to let me have a decontamination limpet.
Taking damage.
I don't know which one. I think the Guardian reinforcements module, or which one. It has against corrosion.
Temperature critical. Fuel sweeping complete. Frameshift drive charging.
It doesn't really matter. I could get rid of the limpet controller and replace it with a decontamination limpet, but I'd rather have both the limpet and the decontamination limpet together.
Would be nice. So, I don't know how true it is, but I heard they want to make to be like the fighter hangar and the other hangar. You have one module and that one has another
Okay.
2 slots.
Yeah. Oh shit.
But
Oh man. I don't have, there's no starbase in this system.
jump to another.
Yeah, but I need one with a, hang on. Fucking Christ. I need one with a class 5. I guess I'm just gonna have to take the nearest one. That's stupid. There's another station 1 jump away, but I don't know what's in this system. See, I'm at the outer rim of the colonies, and I don't know, like...
Frameshift drive charging.
I don't know where the space stations are.
Engage.
62% and falling.
Taking damage. Fuel sweeping. Fuel sweeping complete.
See, once again, there's no station here. There's no way to find out which ones have the space stations and which ones do not.
Frameshift drive charging.
59% and falling. Ay, 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 ay.
Engage.
Come on, let's go.
Taking damage. Fuel sweeping. Fuel sweeping complete.
Yeah, there's no way to know. Found one. It's probably 2 jumps away, but
Frameshift drive charging.
no, it's 1 jump away. %.
3, 2, 1. Engage. Taking damage. Fuel scooping. Fuel scoop disengaged.
Oh fuck, it's a beam station, just 42,000 light seconds away.
Oh god.
Jesus Murphy, holy shit. They're all 40,000. Oh my god. And I picked a station that was right close to the arrival point. There we go. I found one. It's much closer.
Frameshift drive charging.
48% in falling. We're entering the Wogam system.
Taking damage.
There's an Orbis class station here.
Fuel scoop disengaged.
Maddox Gateway, 20 light seconds. .45 and falling. Wogam A2. Holy fuck, the ship is blowing up all around me here. 44% and falling. Auto dock is now confirmed. We're on course for the mail slot.
Scan detected.
All modules are in relatively good shape. We're landing on bay 25. 39% hull.
Do you have authorization to be inside the dock?
Substance neutralized.
Loitering is a violation.
Docking complete. Ground dispatched.
Power panel.
We've repaired our hull. And now we need decontamination limpet here. The collection limpet. Well, we can have a Class 3 repair limpet. shield booster. Okay, I'm gonna go find something to eat and maybe a beverage. So
I'm going as well.
I will be back probably in an hour or so.
Yeah, here it's already 3 in the morning.
Oh, okay. Alright, we'll talk to you tomorrow maybe.
Okay,
Alright, okay. Good night.
bye.
Alright everyone, we're gonna take a bit of a break. This might be until tomorrow. Usual disclaimers and farewell messages. This is Commander Trium at 22811 Zulu and 21st October 3304 at Max Gateway in the Wogam system. Signing off for now. Fly safe, Commanders.